We're going to take a look uh, at a video about a multi-state initiative in a change in our electoral college. Um, Basically, to change it for good. And let's see what this initiative is. But before we get started, that video that you first saw, that was I forgot. I didn't even catch the name. Look at me, I'm a bad host. I don't know which company. Let's see. That looks like from Robert Rake.
Right?
Yeah,
Reek? Reich? I think I fixed it,
Reich.
by the way.
Ah, there it is. Now you're really loud.
I apologize. I can turn
Yeah,
it back a little bit.
yeah. So Robert Reich. So they're talking about how in the last 5 electoral college elections, the president that won was not the popular vote.
Isn't that how it's supposed to be? That's actually how it's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken. Like, you're supposed to not always have the most popular guy vote because that's direct democracy.
Well, yeah. Well, they always talk about democracy every single day. So, not
Which is
like we get it. We get it. Okay. You say democracy, the other side says constitutional republic. Look, we are a representative democracy inside of a constitutional republic. All right. So the
Yep.
Constitution reigns supreme first, and then democracy reigns itself in underneath those guidelines. So that's how it works. But some people are just naive or just unaware of how our system works. So uh they try to destroy it. They try to destroy it for specific reasons. Now, when I talk about the electoral college, uh the first thing I think of is, why was it created in the first place? Scrap?
It was created in the first place so that way states with more population didn't out override states with less population, because you have and this has been the case from the beginning. Like, if you go read some of the things that the founder said in the Federalist Papers, they were not fans of democracy. They
Mhm.
knew what would happen with mob rule. Mob rule
Yep.
is what happens in places like this during the Summer of Love, as they tried to call it, during the BLM riots. Mob rule. People went in the streets and they, and even in DC, like those with in January 6th or 5/28 when with the
Mhm.
BLM riots, you get that many people, you're outvoted, right? You're done. Like, it's over. So what that means is, they were trying to balance the power, because they wanted to give states equal representation at the federal government regardless of their population,
Mhm.
because they were a state. They were each their own country, so they got their own, they and the other way they did that was with the Senate. The Senate was originally assigned by or chosen by the state legislatures, and they sent 2 representatives to represent the state. The House of Representatives is to represent the people according to population. And so what they did was they said, okay, we're going to take the number of reps you get from the House, and we're going to take your 2 senators, and that's the number of delegates you get in the Electoral
Mhm.
College. And that's how they made that work.
Exactly. Now, taking away that right, what it does is, if you're in a state where 60% or 67% decide that they want to vote for, subject A, if you have this law in place, then those 67% become, I mean, their vote doesn't count.
No.
It doesn't count at all. Like, you become disenfranchised. This is what I don't understand. If you talk about having democracy or whatnot, and you think that everybody's vote is supposed to count, if you feel like in the current system that it's not, I feel like that's worse, because
Mhm.
now it's people directly not being able to do so. Now, if a state has more voters for one person than the other, then the state goes for that particular candidate, right?
Mhm.
So we understand why you have, the House of Representatives, and then, of course, the Senate, because the House represents the people and the Senate represents the state.
Right.
But that I think that's also the reason why the Senate only has two, because the state should not have more power than the people
Right.
in that
And
same right.
yeah, that's why we've broken this up at every like, and even the states are supposed to have, you know, Republican style governments. They're supposed to be representative. You have districts like at your local level. You have generally what you have is you elect your whether you're a township or at the city, your council people, and then they represent your ward,
Your mayor.
your mayor,
Mhm.
your sheriff is an elected official. He represents you. And so like these are all people that you directly elect. And then from there, based on their immediate constituency, then they do their job or not, depending on where you live, right? And your politics locally, you should be dealing with more so than at the federal level, because if your local politics are actually representing you, because I can walk down the street, I can go talk to and call up, and I have contacts with a lot of our local, you know, politicians and council people in different towns and not just my own. And I'm building those relationships. I'm not saying
Mhm.
I have influence right now, but like where we just moved into, we're settled in, and that's the thing you need. Because
Right.
these people at Washington, like the farther up the chain you get, the farther away from you they are. So like democracy direct works better when it's small groups of people, like ordering pizza. But where it
Mhm.
doesn't work is at the federal level or the global level, which some people want, and that's way out there. It's not going to happen. But then it's like entirely other people that do not live the way you live, whether it's just city folk versus rural folk, right? Then you have these massive population centers. If you look at a county map of what's red and blue, it's the population centers are all blue, and they're like little dots all over a big red carpet. Like,
Mhm.
so what you're gonna let now that what they want to do is they want to set this thing up so that way when they get enough states that have enough delegates that are over 270, this thing kicks into effect, and then all of those states, when those states go blue, even if they're even so like, and this is it's actually worse than that, because in Ohio or other states that have, because Ohio's a swing state, let's stay on topic, right?
Mhm.
We're a 51% vote when it comes to ballot initiatives for our state constitution. So if they want to push this legislation or this compact as a constitutional amendment here, I'm not too sure if they can, because there are some restrictions to that and what things they can make constitutional amendments. But if they wanted to en route our state legislature, what that means is that this swing state that is generally purple, even on weed, like it took us forever to actually legalize that because we were on top of it. Not
Right,
and
right.
it was even the pro weed people that were voting against it because there was big corporate interests and whatnot that wanted to make it a monopoly. So kudos to the 420 peeps in Ohio up till recently, because they snuck a bunch of woke stuff in it on this time and you voted for it. Sorry, I had to say it. But nonetheless, if they did that, now you have this state that where a good number of people, even if we manage to push the needle over and we want our delegates to go to whatever candidate, if if we're in that compact, no matter who's in that compact, if they go the opposite way of the popular vote, it doesn't matter. Your majority vote in your state now is gone. So it will subvert democracy for those states, if you wish.
Right.
So that's what'll happen. It's not actually democratic. It will take it. What'll happen is those other states that have massive populations, it will undo the very reason why we have an electoral college, is so that way California can't tell Ohio how to vote.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Well, two things. One, if you get rid of the electoral college, number one, it completely eliminates the entire reason why we have a Senate. Number two, what it does is the state of Florida, Texas, California, and New York would run the entire country.
Yes.
And every other state would have no say. Like literally every other state would have no say.
They could ask. We'll see what they're trying to do is take the swing states and turn them into their own. And then what'll happen is that thing that he was talking about, Robert Bernard Reich. His very complaint. See, this is the thing that the left does. This is one of their tactics. It's a part of their ethos, their whole tactic game plan, is they criticize the very thing they want to control. They don't.
No, just let Texas decide for y'all.
Right. Right. Okay. No. See, like they criticize the thing they want to control until that thing falls apart, and then they swoop in, like the police. Let's defund the police and let's make it as hard as possible for good cops to do their job until they completely fall out and they leave, and then we'll backfill them with all the people that we want in there. That's what the left is doing. That's the same thing with this. They want to criticize the very thing that they want to control, that they know is built to not be controlled. It's built to level the field out.
Exactly.
So, yeah, get off my lawn says, let's disenfranchise our own state's voters. That's exactly what they want to do. They want to control this thing. Yeah.
And, and again, this show, Roma, Rise of Middle America, like, I know that it may seem like, we're pushing more of the right initiative, but the thing is that a lot of the issues that are happening are coming from the left. And I feel like a majority of the country sees this but don't know how to be active in educating people on how it should. Just because I agree with Skrapp does not mean that I am right wing or left wing or whatever. It's just I'm bringing you the facts, and then we dissect it through laws, rules, regulations, or whatnot, and say, okay, is this something that is okay to do, or is this something not okay to do? And if it's not, then we end up you take it to court, and that's how it's supposed to work. But it seems like the left is constantly trying to subvert the systems that are in place. Like, one, they want to make sure that all of these states, as long as it counts to 270, disenfranchise 45 million voters. They want to add to the Supreme Court. They want to add a couple extra seats. What are they going to do? Are they going to go 2 and 2? No, of course they're not. It's not going to be a balance. It's just this constant push of a minority, which, yes, I do believe in this country that the left is the minority. It's just that you haven't seen the amount of Republican voters that don't vote.
That's, Christians in particular, because generally they're non-confrontational. People that are too busy dealing with their own lives and whatnot don't want to get into this kind of stuff until it's too late.
And by the way, I guess we'll go ahead and throw this ad out there now. If you are a left-leaning individual who would love to join us up here on stage, we are actually looking for one right now. So
it'd be nice.
It'd be really nice.
We were talking about this earlier. Roma and I both come from places that are left-leaning environments. Probably his more so than mine, but having been a musician,
way more.
I'm familiar. And it's like, what has happened is we're no longer allowed to exist in those spaces and have these opinions. We grew up, we decided, some of us decided we were going to, settle down, have families, and continue our hobbies, but our hobbies became infiltrated by vitriol. And instead of realizing that, I've known this guy for 20 years playing in bands with this dude, and I know what kind of dude he is and how he, goes about things, and then just asking him, hey, why are you, supporting this guy or that guy, and then trying to ingest that and dissect, okay, well, I know this dude's this way, so what they're saying in the news can't be completely true, because this guy's never been done me wrong. Instead, they instantly vilify you, and they go, oh, you're a bad person, and it's like, dude, I'm venting about a specific thing, obviously, right now, so it's like, a lot of the people that I know, they ran off the deep end on one side, and I'm like, where did you go? Why am I the bad guy when you guys are saying, come jump off the cliff with me? I'm like, I'm not jumping off the cliff with you. I'm not doing it.
Right.
So, but anyway, we want somebody on the other side that's like maybe been in there, still is kind of like on that fence or over that way, that can articulate and have the conversations, because we need that. We need somebody who can not only just articulate your other side, but also can articulate this side, because we've spent time learning the arguments of the left, if you will.
Mhm.
We already know. He already knows the arguments of the left. He's had to figure out the arguments of the right. I've had to do it the opposite way. For the most part. Like, this is, so we're kind of like trading notes a lot of times.
Exactly. And it's part of the reason why Scrap and I work so well together. It's because we actually overlap in a lot of stuff, but when it comes to, constitutional things, we're very hard set on the Constitution and the way that it's laid out. Because I don't believe that the Constitution is something that is a hard document. No, it's a flexible document that's meant to breathe. And it's meant to change, with the times. And that's the reason why you have amendments. It's the reason why, you have to have the 67% and the 75%. The reason for that is so that it's not a direct democracy. That's not a 51%. It needs to be an overwhelming majority, a supermajority, basically, that says, okay, at least now we know if it's 67%, 33% can't really argue with that,
Yeah, that's what we wanted. We wanted we wanted a 2/3 majority. At the same time that there were left-leaning special interest groups astroturfing of these wide open abortion laws into our state, they shoved it into our Constitution. And a Constitution is in states are generally easy to add to, hard to change. Like, once you get something in, like, you have to fight to get it out. It's not like law where it's in the General Assembly and they can go and they can pass other law to amend it. You have to get something back on the ballot in order to change constitutional things. And it should be more difficult than 51%. If it's 60% in a state and it's a majority like that, oh, okay, I guess. But sorry, I got a freaking bug in here. This rain came down these last couple days and it hatched a whole horde of offal, and they've gotten in the house. Anyway, yeah, there has to be a threshold, a barrier to changing things, because a lot of people have forgotten to ask why things are the way they are in the first place. They've forgotten that, that the Constitution isn't just the thing that keeps me having rights. It's the thing that gave Roma and his family rights eventually, like through their heritage. So we have a mutual interest in this.
Yep, I've got one side of my family that arrived here in 1717, and the other side of my family had been here before the Constitution was written. So it's just got it. Nice. Now, it looks like Uncapped Turtle, our hero in disguise here from last week. He's got a little bit of information from Robert Ryek, is what he pronounces it, R-I-CK. He's funny. He goes, he's the 4-9 DNC operative from the way back. Robert Bernard Reich is an American professor, author, lawyer, and political commentator. He worked in the administrations of the presidents Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter, and wow, he's old, and served as Secretary of Labor from 1993 to 1997 in the cabinet of President Bill Clinton. He was also a member of the President Barack Obama's Economic Transition Advisory Board. Man, so he's been here for 5 decades.
This guy is in the cult. Like, he is deep. He is deep as it gets when it comes to trying to push policy in ways that benefit their, subversion of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's not like that what they're trying to do is illegal. But what they're doing, they've found one of the things that there's going to be stuff that the founders didn't think of. And these things come up, just like we tried to change in Ohio with, we attempted to make it a 60% to keep that out, to keep the abortion thing from getting ramrodded through, but it got in anyway. And what's
Mhm.
crazy is like those people that voted it down, the amendment to solidify and harden the Constitution so it can't be subverted, they cut their own nose off. Because what happens when things swing the other way? What are you going to do
Exactly.
when it swings back the other direction? What happens to these states if a Ronald Reagan-esque landslide happens and they're all and some of them are in the pact and they say and they're and that okay, California went blue, but all of the rest of the states went red in their pact, and now the whole pact has to go. You know, like, sorry, like you guys just nullified your vote.
And
You've nullified you cut off your nose, spot your face on this.
exactly. You nullified 5 million votes. Or however how many people are in California? That's
a lot.
yeah, and not a lot of them vote either. I think it's something like 30% of them actually vote. Like it's so crazy. I don't know. Somebody in the comment section help us out on that. But anyway, so that first video that you guys saw was from him. Now we're going to give you sort of like the other side and the other perspective on this. And this is from, it looks like Facts Matter with Roman Balma. And Skrapp, if you can kill that music, we're going to go ahead and listen to this guy and see what he has to say about it.
Trying to get there.
Oh my God.
There it is. All right.
Boom.
Legislature of Maine became the 17th in the nation to pass a bill which will effectively eliminate the Electoral College. Because you see, unbeknownst to most people, there is a serious effort in this country to make presidential elections a simple majority popular vote. And even though most people have never heard about this effort, well, it's actually already
I didn't until literally yesterday.
That the Electoral College is truly at risk of getting completely scrapped in the next few years. This effort, it's officially called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, otherwise known as the NPVIC. And what it basically is, it's an agreement between the states that join to give their collective electoral votes to whichever candidate happens to win the popular vote at the national level. Let me briefly explain. Up on your screen is a map of the Electoral College votes by state. This is the most recent map based on the 2020 census results. Every state has Electoral College votes equal to the number of representatives that they have in Congress at the federal level. And so, for instance, the state of Texas, they have 2 senators as well as 38 members of the House, and therefore they have 40 votes total in the Electoral College. Now, the way that the Electoral College has evolved over the last 250 years is kind of a long story, but relevant to our discussion today, it's worth highlighting that every individual state gets to decide how they apportion their votes, meaning that the state legislatures in each state, they get to decide how they divvy out their Electoral College votes. And so at this moment, the way that it works in practice is that whichever candidate wins a plurality of votes in a given state, meaning whoever wins the popular vote in a state, they get that state's Electoral College votes. This is the way it works for every state except for 2. Nebraska and Maine, they actually split up their Electoral College votes based on congressional districts. And they can do this, again, because states can decide how to divvy up their votes. The Electoral College system itself was established by Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. But states, they retain the ability to run their own elections and to decide how they apportion their Electoral College votes. It's an aspect of our federalist system. And so opponents of the Electoral College system, they have used this as a sort of loophole to try and destroy it. Because you see, if you wanted to get rid of the Electoral College system in the normal way, you would have to amend the U.S. Constitution, which is realistically not possible. There is not enough support to get rid of the Electoral College by passing an actual amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And so instead, what opponents of the Electoral College system have been doing is that they've been working to get rid of it using the back door by having individual states sign up for something known as the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, or the NPVIC.
And pause that right there. So what was that? That was the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. All right. So what they're talking about here, dude, we should have done a constitutional corner on this.
I mean, here we are.
I think we need to do that sometime next season. Absolutely. So at least so everybody can take a snapshot of this and they know like what it is. I don't know. I think the point of having the Senate have 2 senators was so that the states couldn't overpower the people. But what it seems like is that they're they're finding a loophole with the congregation of states to do this. I don't understand why a lot of the swing states would do this, because you can put it into law, but if it swings hard back in the other direction, you don't want them to spite you doing this and then make it not only take it away, but also make it much harder to do it again.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get a swing state to get into this because we fight so hard within our states already. And that's not to say that our states have vitriolic, politics within them where we fight so hard. It's just that we have the conversations at our local level, and they're good, a lot of them. Like, I think every state should be a swing state. There shouldn't be one state that is a dedicated red or blue. It should be a toss up because if you're not doing it right, I'm sorry. If you aren't a swing state, you're not doing it right. You have homogenized into a place where you're too comfortable. You're way too comfortable because both parties have been shown over time to not be in the best interest of the people at times. When especially because there are real things that Bernard Reich, Robert Reich, he pulls up that said that where this is why primarying is actually effective, because in states where they just run incumbents unchallenged many times, it's very easy to go in if you can stir up the vote against somebody and you can knock somebody out in the primary, within the party. But in states that are swing states, you absolutely have to have somebody that that you can win a general on. You have to. You can't. It's not just, oh, okay, this is politics as usual, and they're just going to have a revolving door. That stuff still happens in swing states to some degree, but people are paying more attention in swing states than the rest of you.
Exactly.
In a way. So it's good to have that, but they're trying to attack it, right? It's a good thing that they don't like. Like I was saying.
Yeah, and they're only attacking the parts that disenfranchise the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that I can't get behind.
And
it's like being a sore loser. It's like I can't win, so I have to rig the rules. So instead, for example, basketball, you're bigger, stronger, and faster than I am. So now you have to play with your feet on the ground. You cannot jump. You can't move. Your feet are solid.
Right.
Okay,
just
now
playing
it's a
by the
fair game.
rules.
Right.
As they are. Oh, this is one of the things that he doesn't bring up that is also a problem is you have states or areas where you have homogeny in one area, right? And so when you have homogeny, one of the things that happens is Republicans, up until I think the last few years, have been really bad about the minority vote because it has been dominated by the left and Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And they just don't go into those areas. But we've had a shift. The whole political window has shifted, and there are more and more people. I don't know if you watched. I don't know if you didn't have the chance to watch Trump's speech tonight.
No.
He had this one lady on there from Georgia where I guess she was a waitress, but she said she was talking about she's got a podcast and everything, black lady, and Trump told this story about when he went into the diner there. She was like, "Oh, hey, you saved my college." And it's like, the thing that the left does is that they just pander all the time, where the right, they generally are just like, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. But the thing the left does that's good is they actually go in and meet people on the ground. A lot of times they're not afraid to walk into places. The right, they are, because they've just been so stiff for so long. But there's now this new blood that's coming into the party with Trump, who's just like, I don't care. I'm who I am, and you're getting these minority votes in too. is starting to get better. Whereas traditionally, you know, a lot of these homogenized places, like the Republicans never bothered. They're like, well, that neighborhood over there, whatever, we're never going to get their vote.
Exactly.
You know?
Or let's
Anyway.
push through with this video so we can get it. If Beard, if you can kill the music, I'm gonna go ahead and get this started.
I'm sorry, I didn't know
or
you
the
didn't want to go that far.
NPVIC.
No, you're good.
And
you're good.
the NPVIC is an agreement
No, we
between
needed to say
states
it.
to give their collective electoral college votes to whichever candidate happens to win the national popular vote. Quote, a California millionaire named John Koza is trying to undo the electoral college. He is leading and funding the National Popular Vote campaign. Their plan is to get state governments to ignore how their own citizens vote in presidential elections and instead get them to cast their electoral votes based on the national popular vote. If it works, this will be like getting rid of the Electoral College, but without actually amending the Constitution. NPV only takes effect if it is joined by enough states that they control 270 electoral votes, which would then control the outcome of all future presidential elections. If that happens, and if the courts do not strike it down, big cities will gain more political power at the expense of everyone else. And so what's been happening in this country since about...
That's what I said here. I was like, that's like if that means Texas, California, New York, and Florida, and I'll throw Illinois in there as well, would be running the entire country.
I want to say something about John Koza also. This guy, I just picked his Wikipedia up. Computer scientist and former adjunct professor at Stanford, most notably notable for his work in pioneering in the use of genetic programming, not like DNA, but it's for complex problem solving. Koza co-founded Scientific Games Corporation, which builds computer systems to run on state lotteries in the United States. He also credited with being the creator of the scratch-off card with help of retail promotion specialist Daniel Bauer. This guy is a professional house of gambling. He knows how to build the stuff that makes the house win.
There it is.
Let's go.
That's crazy.
About 2006 is that state legislatures in blue states, they've been passing these NPVIC laws. At the moment, 16 states, as well as the District of Columbia, have successfully passed the NPVIC laws, which are now on the books. For your reference, the states are as follows. You have Maryland, New Jersey, Illinois, Hawaii, Washington State, Massachusetts, Vermont, California, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut, Colorado, Delaware, New Mexico, Oregon, Minnesota, and then also Washington, D.C. In total, this block represents 205 electoral college votes, which is 76% of the necessary total. And so, because they have not reached that 270 threshold, these NPVIC laws, they are on the books in those states, but they're dormant. They haven't yet gone into effect. However, if and when enough states join this compact to add up to 270 votes, the laws will be triggered, and overnight, the Electoral College will effectively be eliminated. Because at the very moment when this National Popular Vote Compact has 270 votes total, the states that have signed on will automatically shift the way that their system works to give their Electoral College votes to whoever happens to win the National Popular Vote. And so the moment that happens, the US president will suddenly be decided by a simple majority vote. Whoever is able to win the masses in big cities will be able to win the presidency, while the people living in the rural countryside will essentially become serfs, unable to affect policy at the national level moving forward. But here's the thing. While we're not there quite yet, looking across the whole country, it's actually feasible that within the next few years, probably within the next 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, enough states might join the compact to activate the change. That's because right now, the NPVIC is missing only 65 electoral college votes. However, at the same time, you have 11 states that have NPVIC bills working through their state legislatures. And these 11 states, they together represent 101 electoral college votes. And here's the status generally of these 11 states. Just last week, over in Maine, the NPVIC bill passed both the state Senate as well as the state Assembly and is now sitting on the governor's desk awaiting signature. The governor there has 3 more days to either sign the bill or to veto it. However, if she doesn't do anything, it'll automatically become law without her signature in 3 days. Then you have Nevada, where the NPVIC bill also passed both the state Senate as well as the state House. However, over in Nevada, this type of bill actually does not need to be signed by the governor. Instead, because this bill amends the state constitution, it must pass the legislature again in the year 2025, and then afterwards, there must be a statewide vote in order for it to be enacted. And this whole process, it might take about 2 years. And then in the other 9 states that you can see up on your screen, they all have NPVIC bills going through the committee process in the state Senate, the state assembly, or both. And so we'll have to wait and see how this process plays itself out in those states. But until then, you really do have to admire this type of a scheme. Objectively speaking, it is incredibly smart, using a backdoor way to get rid of the Electoral College by just having enough states join a block to add up to 270 votes and then agree to give those votes to whoever wins the popular vote. In terms of a strategy, it is quite literally brilliant. Although, obviously, the end result will be something that the framers of this country wished would never happen. The obliteration of the Electoral College alongside a shift towards a direct democracy, something, again, that the founding fathers feared. Although, I'd love to know your thoughts on this issue. Do you think that moving America towards having a popular vote is a good idea? Or do you think that it runs the real risk of majority rule that completely strips away the rights of the minority? I'd love to know your thoughts. In the comment section below tonight, as well as later into the week. And as you're making your way down there to the description box, well, rather the comment section, take a quick detour to smash those like and subscribe buttons so that this information can reach ever more people via the YouTube algorithm. All right, just to pause here for a super quick moment. Listen, it's obvious that the financial system is not looking too great.
It's an inline ad.
Being pumped out trillions of virtually free government.
No.
Oh, where's someone else? Oh,
Look at that. There's the most replayed is right there, of course, because that's where the ad ends. That's hilarious. All right.
So, and then lastly, if you enjoyed today's content and you're thinking to yourself, man, I love this episode. I just wish Roma would put out more episodes every single week.
Well, did he say Roma?
Did he just say Roma?
Roma? He wished
Hold up.
Roma.
I wish Roma would hold on. I got to do this. I have to.
we have to clip this.
Hold on.
We have to clip it.
And then lastly, if you enjoyed today's content and you're thinking to yourself, man, I love this episode. I just wish Roma would put out more episodes every single week.
We're using it. We're using it. Fair use.
Awesome
Dude, Turtle,
platform.
clip that.
Anywhere between 1 to 3
Clip
exclusive
it now.
episodes of Facts Matter every single
We're
week.
using it. I just
Usually
wish
on
Roma
topics
put
that
out
are
more
unfortunately
content.
too spicy for here on YouTube.
I need
And so
that.
if you'd like to get access to those exclusive episodes, including a huge backlog from the last...
All right. I'll go. We're going to kill
He's
it there.
just plugging his own stuff at this point, dude.
Dude, did he just plug me?
He did. He
Oh,
said
man.
Epoch Times endorses Roman Nation.
Unofficially. Officially.
Not really, but it sounded like it. Allegedly.
It totally did. I'm just going to roll with it. You can take me to court. But anyways. But yeah, so to kind of close that out, I mean, I've already said my piece. There was a third thing I wanted to mention, and it popped into my head when I was mentioning the other two, is that I think that when they created the Electoral College, I believe that there were things in the future that they didn't know it would have protected against that we know now that it protects against. And one of those things is they didn't know that the federal government was going to get as big as it did.
Right.
So they were actually firmly against having a large, I mean, they were a lot more libertarian back then than anything else.
I mean, come on. They had riots over 3% tax. Where are we?
Bro, they destroyed more tea than Lipton on one day because of this. But, oh God, I just lost my train of thought. It was such a good, so going back to it protecting, what it does is it protects against the federal government coming in and meddling in certain elections, because let's say if, I don't know, President Trump decides to go into Texas and blow up the vote somehow by, I don't know, throwing in a bunch of electoral votes. Well, guess what? That protects against it because you only get so many electoral college votes. So it only goes up to that point. It's the same thing in Biden.
So if
same thing in California.
Like if one state or another decides that they're going to rig their own election, they only get so much to rig. Whereas
there's a ceiling.
Whereas this, if all those states come together and say, hey, we're all going to agree, but it makes, like you're saying, it makes no sense for blue states. These are the states that are doing this are hard blue. They're entrenched blue states that are trying to capture swing states. That's literally all it is. They're trying to capture swing states. Don't let them trick you into thinking that they just want to make everything fair and equal, because it's not. They're trying to subvert the swing states into doing this, and they will do it if they can get away with it. You need to protect your own vote in your state. Don't go into another pact with another state. Don't do it.
Subvert, like I said before, subverting your vote, subverting the Supreme Court, subverting the Electoral College. It's all about making you less powerful to make them more powerful. When I say them, I'm not talking about the actual voter. I'm not talking about the Democratic or Republican voter. We're talking about this little oligarch that's sitting at the top that thinks that they control everything.
Autocrats and the deep state,
the deep state, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, exactly. That's what's trying to take control, because they know that they, without that control, they really can't do anything. They can't enrich themselves. They can't, put it, whatever, insert Alex Jones quote here. But
don't like it when they try to make the freaking vote gay.
Turn the frogs gay.